let me tell you about the gut brain axis and our insatiable appetite for sugar. Liking sugar is the function of the taste system. And it's not really liking sugar, it's liking sweet. Wanting sugar, our never ending appetite for sugar, is the story of the gut brain axis.
I think a lot of what people are dealing with is inflammation that's caused by too much processed carbohydrates, too much simple refined carbohydrates and sugars.
So if you look at what they call the 5 scourges of health, they are obesity, cancer, cognitive decline, heart disease, and diabetes. Those are all metabolic. Those are all things that we get through food. And over half the people that are in the hospital today, right now in the United States, are in there for metabolic issues.
Sugar. The white powdery substance that's more addictive than nicotine, more insidious than a pop-up ad, and is more American than apple pie. We've been spooning it into our coffee, sprinkling it on our cereal, and consuming it by the truckload for centuries. It's the legal drug that's been hiding in plain sight, seducing us with its sweet taste and comforting familiarity. But behind its innocent facade lies a bitter truth. The sugar industry is a powerhouse that's been pulling the strings of our food system for decades. It's responsible for everything from our own expanding waistlines to the rise in chronic diseases. It's all been done with a smile and a spoonful of sugar to help the deception go down. Think about it. Sugar is everywhere. It's in your morning coffee, your lunchtime sandwich, and even in that healthy granola bar that you snack on between meals. It's been woven into the fabric of our daily lives so seamlessly that we hardly notice it. But the sugar industry didn't just stumble into this level of influence. It was a calculated, decades-long effort to make sure that sugar was indispensable in the American diet. And boy, did they succeed. Today, the average American consumes more sugar in a week than their great-grandparents did in a month. But how did we get here? How did sugar go from being a luxury item to a dietary staple that we can't seem to live without? In this video, we're diving deep into the rise of the sugar industry in the US, how it shaped our diets, and the not-so-sweet consequences that have come with it. We'll peel back the layers of the sugar empire, exposing how a once niche product became the king of the American kitchen, and how the industry has managed to stay on top, even as the health risks of sugar become more impossible to ignore. So grab a snack, prepare at least something low in sugar, and get ready for a ride through the sticky world of America's sugar addiction. And spoiler alert, the truth might leave a bad taste in your mouth. My name's Mark, and welcome to my channel. I make deep dives into the dark world of money, power, and business, empowering you, my cherished viewer, with all the tools you need to take control of your future. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon as to not miss out on my weekly uploads. These videos take quite a while to make, so your support is greatly appreciated. Now tap in, and I'll explain.
I was given a brochure by one of the keynote speakers about how dentists could help manage type 2 diabetic patients, and it didn't say anything about reducing sugar. And then a second keynote speaker ranked Lipton Brisk sweet tea, which had 44 grams of sugar, as a healthy drink. And I actually chased him down and said, how can you possibly say sweet tea is healthy? And his answer to me was, there is no evidence linking sugar to chronic disease.
Let's rewind the clock to a time when sugar was a luxury, not a given. Back in the 18th century, sugar was a rare and expensive commodity, reserved for the upper crust of society. It was shipped over from the Caribbean, where it was produced on plantations run by European colonizers and worked by enslaved African peoples. This golden triangle of trade, sugar, slaves, and rum, was the backbone of the colonial economy. But it was built on the suffering of millions. The sweetness of sugar came at a bitter cost, one that's conveniently ignored by those enjoying their sweetened tea and cakes back in England. But as the demand for sugar grew, so did the industry's reach. By the 19th century, sugar production had exploded, fueled by the Industrial Revolution and the advent of new technologies that made it easier and cheaper to redefine and distribute sugar. Suddenly, what was once a luxury item was becoming more accessible to the masses. Sugar was no longer just for the wealthy. It was for everyone, and became more affordable. It started to creep into more and more foods, subtly changing the way people ate. Fast forward to the early 20th century, and sugar had become a dietary staple in the United States. It was no longer just something you added to your tea or used in baking. It was an ingredient in almost every processed food on the market. From breakfast cereals to canned soups, sugar was everywhere. And it wasn't just about taste, it was about preservation. Sugar helped extend the shelf life of products, making it a must-have for food manufacturers looking to maximize profits. But while the industry was thriving, the health consequences of this sugar boom were just beginning to surface. If there's one thing the sugar industry knows how to do, it's marketing. They didn't just rely on the natural lure of sweetness to sell their product. No. They built an entire empire on strategic advertising and public relations. The sugar industry has been a master of spin, using slick advertising campaigns to convince the American public that sugar is not only delicious, but essential. They've sponsored studies, funded research, and lobbied politicians, all in the name of keeping sugar at the top of the food chain. One of their most successful tactics was the demonization of fat. In the 1950s and 60s, as concerns about heart disease began to rise, the sugar industry saw an opportunity. They funded studies that downplayed the role of sugar in heart disease and obesity, shifting the blame onto fat instead. This led to the rise of the low-fat craze in the 1980s and 90s, where food manufacturers removed fat from their products and replaced it with, you guessed it, sugar. The result was a generation of consumers who were unknowingly consuming more sugar than ever before, all the while believing they were making healthier choices. But the marketing didn't stop there. The sugar industry also targeted children, using colorful mascots, catchy jingles, and Saturday morning cartoons to sell sugary cereals and snacks. They created a culture where sugar was seen as a treat, a reward, and as a part of childhood. And let's not forget the holidays. Halloween, Christmas, Easter, all of which have been commercialized and sugar-fired to the point where they're practically synonymous with candy. The sugar industry's influence on our diets and culture is so pervasive that it's hard to imagine a world without it. But while we were all enjoying our sugary treats, the long-term health consequences were quietly building up. For years, the sugar industry managed to keep the public in the dark about the true health risks of their product. As obesity rates skyrocketed and more research came to light, it became increasingly clear that sugar was a major player in the rise of chronic diseases. The health fallout from America's sugar addiction has been nothing short of catastrophic. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even certain types of cancer have all been linked to excessive sugar consumption. And it's not just about weight gain. Sugar wreaks havoc on the body in ways that go beyond just the scale. One of the most insidious effects of sugar and its impacts on the liver. High fructose corn syrup, a common sweetener in processed foods, is metabolized by the liver, where it can lead to fatty liver disease, insulin resistance, and eventually type 2 diabetes. And then there's the effect on our brains. Sugar triggers the release of dopamine, the same chemical that's released when we engage in pleasurable activities, like eating. Yeah, get your mind out the gutter, please. Drinking, and yes, even certain drugs. This creates a cycle of addiction where we crave more and more sugar to achieve the same level of satisfaction. But perhaps the most concerning aspect of sugar's health impact is its role in inflammation. Chronic inflammation is a key factor in a host of diseases, from heart disease to Alzheimer's, and sugar is a major driver in this process. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire, only the fire is inside your body and is slowly burning you from the inside out. Yet, despite all this evidence, the sugar industry has continued to downplay the risks, insisting that sugar is a harmless part of a balanced diet. But as more and more people begin to wake up to the dangers of sugar, it's becoming clear that this is one sweet lie we can no longer afford to swallow. As sugar consumption has skyrocketed, so too has the power of the sugar industry. Big Sugar has become a major player in the American economy, with a handful of companies controlling the vast majority of production and distribution. These corporations have used their immense power to influence government policy, secure subsidies, and maintain their dominance in the market. All the while, they are raking in billions. Small businesses are left to fend for themselves in an increasingly hostile environment. For small farmers and producers, competing with Big Sugar is like trying to take down Goliath with a slingshot. The sugar industry's deep pockets and political clout make it nearly impossible for smaller players to survive, let alone thrive. It's not just the farmers who are feeling the squeeze. Consumers are paying the price too, thanks to subsidies and tariffs that protect Big Sugar's profits. Sugar prices in the US are artificially inflated, costing consumers billions of dollars every year. It's a sour deal all around, and one that's left a bad taste in the mouths of many Americans. But the impact of Big Sugar's dominance goes beyond the financial. The industry's influence has also shaped the American food landscape. pushing processed, sugar-laden products to the forefront and making it harder for healthier options to gain traction. Small businesses that produce natural, wholesome foods are often overshadowed by the marketing muscle of big sugar, leaving consumers with fewer choices and a food system that prioritizes profit over health. It's a classic tale of David and Goliath. But in this case, Goliath is armed with billions of dollars, a fleet of lobbyists, and a monopoly on the American sweet tooth. So where does this leave us? The rise of the sugar industry has been a sweet success story for a few, but a bitter pill for the rest of us to swallow. We're living in a world where sugar is everywhere, hidden in our food and disguised as something we need. But the truth is, we don't need sugar. Yeah, we're just addicted to it. But at least until we can start cutting back, the health and economic consequences will continue to pile up. As consumers, we have the power to make a change. We can choose to be more mindful of what we eat, to read our labels, and to cut back on the sugar that's been sneaking around in our diets. Because in the end, the real sweetness of life doesn't come from a spoonful of sugar. It comes from living a healthy, balanced life. And that's a truth worth savoring. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of the sugar industry, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to not miss out on my weekly uploads. These videos take quite a while to make, so your support is greatly appreciated. And as always, my name's Mark. You've been great. Stay dangerous, and I'll see you in the next one.